One of the biggest challenges I have had to overcome as an ADHD woman entrepreneur is finding my own inner light, being able to connect with that and let that and my intuition guide me. It's super common for ADHD women to lose connection with our light. And this happens in a lot of ways. I'm about to share three ways that I see it happen most. One is we mask through people pleasing. When we people please, and I talked about this in another recent video, when we people please, we lose connection with who we are because we're so focused on what other needs that we're not really tuned into what we need. And that we start to shut off our own signals about our need because we end up no longer having time for them. And so it can be really hard to hear not just our bodily need and to connect in with what's going on that level, the physical level, but also to connect in more deeply with our highest self, our inner wise woman, our inner light, because we're so externally focused on trying to please others and do what others need that we start to disconnect from that. Another way that we mask that impacts this is perfectionism. Again, when we are focused on perfectionism, our focus is outward. We are not tuned in to what that feels like in our body. We're not tuned into what it feels like emotionally. But again, we are forcing ourselves to do something that may not be in alignment. And the more we do that, the more we turn off those messages. We disregard the messages from our inner wisdom, we douse our inner light. And I also see the way that a lot of us are very busy with activity, we end up not very grounded. And to me, some of that busyness is again another ADHD mask. We mask through overfunctioning by pushing and pushing and pushing and then crashing. And that pattern, especially over time, for me, it was decades till I realized it, basically, again, cuts off our connection to our bodily experiences, to our emotions, but even more deeply, our intuition, our inner light. Because we're so focused on the hustle, we're not grounded enough. We're not still enough to hear what's going on deep inside. And so the answer is allowing yourself to slow down. The answer is sitting in the silence. For me, some of that answer is yoga. Some of it's meditation. And I know everyone's like, I can't meditate because I have ADHD. I'm just going to say this, and I say it with love. That's total bullshit. There's a way to meditate with ADHD. It's just that everyone thinks meditation is quieting your mind, which is ridiculous because brains love to think whether you've got ADHD or not. So when you shift your expectation with meditation from, I'm not trying to quiet my mind, I'm just trying to be present and notice when I'm distracted and bring my attention back, that's meditation. And there's ways to do that with ADHD that are more accessible. Little tangent there. But what I found is as I engaged in those body based practices, as I engaged in those, for me, spiritual practices of yoga and meditation and sitting in the stillness, being in nature, hugging trees, I started to find that deeper connection. I started yoga when I was 35. I was meditating since I was about 25, although inconsistently for a little bit, and mostly mindfulness meditation only with movement at that time, the early years. And I will tell you, once I started the physical asana practices, the actual physical yoga, I started to notice a significant difference in my ability to connect with my inner light. Because at the end of a yoga practice, you lie down still and you just be. And with ADHD, that's something that not a lot of us do, and for good reason, because it can feel scary. It can feel like our thoughts are overwhelming. But when you practice being in the silence, when you practice being still, it starts to become a comfort. When you do it from a place of learning how to ground your energy, learning how to center and ground so that you're able to be in that space without panicking. Essentially, what this comes down to is those of us with ADHD have a hard time being grounded. Our energy is very up here, very moving, very wiry. And instead, to know our inner light, to shine our inner light, we need to get grounded and just be. Give it a try. Let me know what you think in the comments.